was a big education case that was argued at the U.S. Supreme Court. And while the case originates out of Oklahoma and it deals with their statewide charter school board and its policies, it certainly potentially has some major implications for charter schools and religious schools nationwide. And so we want to talk about this as we wind up the program today. What are some of the potential implications? Well, here now to share more about all this is Meg Kilgannon. She's a senior fellow for education studies here at the Family Research Council. Meg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jody.
Okay, a big case. The arguments, it's underway at the Supreme Court. What is this case all about?
Well, there is a charter school called St. Isidore in Oklahoma, and it is an online charter school. And it is a charter school is a kind of a school that receives public money. It's a privately run school, but it is supported by public dollars. And so essentially the school is saying to Oklahoma, we're a charter school. We'd like to be a part of your program, and we hope you won't discriminate against us because we're a religious school. And so Oklahoma has said no. In our Constitution, it says that we cannot have an establishment of religion in our public, with the use of our public money and in our schools. And so, no, we cannot allow you to participate in this program. So now this has risen to the level of the Supreme Court. So here we are arguing before the court.
So what are some of the competing views in all of this? I know everybody's looking at this from a little different perspective. What are some of the different perspectives?
This is a very controversial issue. I can tell you that here in Washington, D.C., I have been invited to and attended many events talking about and debating the merits of this case and the implications of this case. One of the groups of people who are concerned about this and the ramifications of this decision are charter schools in blue states like New York and California. They're very concerned that their charter programs will be discontinued or somehow impacted negatively if this decision goes in favor of this Catholic school. So there's concern about that. There's always concern about strings attached to public money, right? And so that is an overwhelming concern for a lot of people. But there are a lot of charter schools across the country, and there are charter schools that are specifically designed for LGBTQ students. There are charter schools that are designed for students who want to study music, for students who want to do STEM, science, technology, kinds of schools. There are lots of very specific kinds of charter schools all across the country. And so the question has become, why can't we have a religious charter school? And so there's a tension here between free exercise and establishment. Speaking constitutionally, I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand all of those arguments, to be perfectly honest with you. But as a mom, and as somebody who wants to have a great school system, this particular situation is interesting because parents are not going to wake up and discover that their children have become Catholic because they attended the local public school, and now, excuse me, and now they've been proselytized, right? This is a school that is an online school, and parents would have to absolutely opt into it, and so. There's no question that the parents are asking for this instruction for their children. And so when I think about parents in public schools now who can find that their children have been, indoctrinated with gender identity behind their backs, this idea that parents wouldn't have a right to choose this kind of education for their children seems to be, it seems pretty reasonable to me that this would be allowed.
And it's interesting that you mentioned there are so many different types of charter schools across the country. So why not a religious one if that's what the people in that area want?
Right.
That's a great question. Let me ask you this, because I found this to be very, very interesting. The final decision in this case is not going to involve all 9 of our Supreme Court justices. Associate Justice Amy Coney Barrett has recused herself from this case.
Right.
And I'm not sure why. Do you know why?
I do know why. She is, her background is at Notre Dame Law School, and the legal clinic at Notre Dame Law School has been advising the lawyers who have been advising this school. So she's personal friends with somebody there who's very involved in this case, and so she just felt it would be a conflict of interest for her to be involved. So it creates an interesting situation in this case. You have the 3 liberal justices who, from today's arguments, are very clearly not going to support this school and this idea, right? So generally, you know what the liberals are going to do. And then you have on the other side, it seemed like most of the Republican-appointed justices were going to be on the side of the school. The swing vote in this case seems like it's going to be Chief Justice John Roberts, who is Catholic and who has been very comfortable deciding cases in favor of certain kinds of religious schools in public settings. There's a case in Maine where they have a pot of public money that parents can access when their children live too far away from the nearest public high school. Their parents can use this money to pay either for any kind of private school that's closer to them and more convenient for them, or an online school. And they had not been allowing that money to go to religious schools. And the Supreme Court ruled in the Macon case that they did have to allow parents to be able to send their kids to religious schools, because they were spending the money on any other kind of schooling. It was discriminatory to exclude religion. And that seemed to be where the reasoning was trying to go today. And so it's going to be interesting to see what Justice Roberts does. I mean, he's been.
Could go any direction.
He could go in, right. He could go in anyway, right.
It's always interesting to see how he's going to go.
Fair enough.
Let me ask you this: we've got just a couple of minutes left. Did anything in the oral arguments today stick out to you? Did anything just kind of jump off the page where you had kind of an aha moment?
There was one point where Justice Kavanaugh said that there was an exchange, and he said, I think that this school is just asking for people to not discriminate against them because they're religious. And I think that's a really good way of understanding and looking at this case, because that really is the situation. There are plenty of if you're a parent who wants to choose a charter school in Oklahoma, there are other schools available to you. You don't have to pick this school. This is not going to be the only charter school in Oklahoma, right? So there's no reason, if there are other options, why couldn't there be a faith-based option? That just seems to be common sense.
Yep, therein is the problem. Common sense is often a problem. When do we expect a decision? Any idea?
By June.
By June. So we ought to be hearing pretty soon.
We should be hearing very soon.
Wow. Well, that certainly should be an item of prayer for all our viewers and listeners. This could have enormous ramifications for religious liberties, for education, parental rights, a host of things, charter schools, a lot at stake in this. Meg Kilgannon, always an honor to have you on the program. Thank you for joining us today, as always.
Thanks for having me.